Hi everyone, it's your boy number one Marmaduke fan, and I'm looking at Tinsel, published by Alterna Comics. The writer is David Lucarelli, the artist is Henry Ponciano, and HDE does the colors. Now, Tinsel is the book where I'm not super enthusiastic about it, but for a buck 50, it's okay. The genre is supposed to be crime action noir, and there is some noirish high drama to the art, but I'd actually almost describe it as sort of an interesting slice of life character study of a female police officer in early 1900s Hollywood. And the author talks a little bit about taking inspiration from his mother's life story as a sort of cute girl police officer for Universal Studios. And what's kind of interesting about this is the introduction kind of leads you to believe this is sort of like a proto-feminist, hoorah feminism book. But really, what I like about it is Abigail Moore comes off as a strong, not just a strong female protagonist, but a strong character who reacts well in a tough situation. And David Lucarelli is drawing from his mother's real life experiences, but kind of not in a preachy way. I also like that this is sort of showing that Tinseltown, the allegedly progressive utopia, is really sham progressive when it comes to the treatment of women. So I'm on board for that. So pretty much Abigail Moore is the whereas David Lucarelli's mother worked for Universal Studios. Abigail Moore wants to be a police officer, but the only job she can get is as sort of a security guard for Utopia Studios. The movie studio has their own independent city where they hire a few token police officers to just look around and make sure there are no bums in the studio. And I really like the setup. We get a real clear reason for why she wants to be a police officer. From her earliest memories, she remembers her father and holding her father's badge. And so when her father dies and she's angry about that, police work is something that just seems like a natural course to her. And here's what I'm talking about with sort of this noirish use of light and shadow. That it's used sparingly. And maybe the contrast to that would be something like Sin City, which is also inspired by old noir, hard-boiled detective stories. But in Sin City, every single page and every single panel has that pumped-up attitude to it. And this, it's just a few panels per comic. I think the weakness for Henry Ponciano is his faces. It's generally adequate art with some good light and shadow, some good drama. But whenever someone will make an expression, I can tell that there's probably a photo reference and that Ponciano is relying on that photo reference to get all of the shapes and contours. The thing about cartooning is any form of drawing which is not representationalism, drawing the form, pretty much not using solid blacks and lines, any kind of drawing where you're shading everything, that's where photorealism comes into play. But when you depart from photorealism, you have to cartoon the face a little bit. And hyper-realistic expressions in solid black lines don't really work, and that's why cartooning conventions developed. If you look at how Popeye scrunches up his eye, or how the characters in Asterix have sort of cutesy cheeks, those are cartoon conventions that are based on something in real life. You smile, your cheeks bunch up underneath your eyes. So the point is, in cartooning, you're supposed to emphasize that a little bit. I would just, the only prescription I would have is maybe depart from photo reference or model reference, whatever that Ponciano is using for faces. And if you don't want it to have sort of like a syrupy sweet Disney style, then look at a Frank Miller. Look at anyone who draws sort of chiseled features. Jack Kirby would be a good example of that. Will Eisner. You need some Will Eisner reference if you're going to be doing hard-boiled detective stories in a cartoon style, where it's not just like cutesy anime face, but it doesn't get this sort of flattish, creepyish look to it. So that's Ponciano's style. Apart from that, Ponciano, there's another one of those faces. It does a pretty good job of capturing the flavor of the time, period costumes, the props. The backgrounds are generally very simple. Just like a few lines, and sketching things out a little bit. So it works. It's what I would call adequate art. Another one of those faces. So, like I said before, this is allegedly supposed to be a crime noir, but not much crime happens. There's no dead bodies yet. And I'd mostly kind of describe it as a young woman who is struggling with sexism. Now, here's the thing I actually liked about it. The struggle with sexism bit has kind of been overdone by a million radical feminist morality plays. What I like about this one is it sort of balances her character, where she wants something to get what she wants, to become a real police officer. She kind of has to put up with being a calendar girl police officer for a while and not feeling like a real police officer. So there's sort of a, you put in your time here and maybe you'll get an opportunity to do what you really want down the road. And I like how when she is confronted with catcalling, there are these horrible T-shirts on TeePublic that were actually featured by TeePublic for a while. And I think it was something like "Dead Men Don't Catcall," and there's like a knife or something. And I know it's supposed to be like tongue in cheek, ah ha ha, I'm such a tough girl, but the theme of the feminist message is pretty much, haha, wouldn't it be fun to murder people who catcall us out in public? And her response to that is to not dignify it with a response. I feel like this is a lost art. I am not going to dignify that comment with a response is good because you're not rewarding the bad behavior by giving them attention. If Abigail Moore freaked out and started punching some Nazis, these guys would just be laughing about it. They'd say, oh, hey, she must have liked my little salty comment about her tuchus, huh? So that is just a good bit of life advice for anyone, man or woman. Let those comments bounce off you. Little kids really need to learn that. Okay, my dad used to call me a rabbit ears. And what he meant by that was a rabbit ears is someone whose ears are so big, they hear any little mean thing about them. And anytime I would get upset at him for calling me a rabbit ears, he would start like pretend boxing me. And if I whined, he would pretend box harder. And people, when I tell that story, they freak out a bit. But that is the best thing my father ever could have done for me, because I learned to let verbal comments bounce off me and to not kind of show my belly to a bully. He wasn't hitting me. He was teaching me how to deal with a certain type of pugnacious personality. And that's by not, you neither cower meekly away from it, nor do you like freak out and start kicking and screaming and having conniptions all over the place. This sort of firm resolve in the face of this is exactly the kind of thing I want to see for a character like this. So she goes on a date. She saves a guy. I think the problem with Tinseltown is not too much happens. So she saves a guy, and then she does has some conversations. She sort of gives us a bit of perspective on how she doesn't feel like a real cop and how she really wants something out of life. And then it ends with a mysterious person on her case. I really like some of the extra art they got people to do too. So Pond did this one, kind of like really expressive color. There are a few more. Let's find the other artists who did guest work here, because that's kind of interesting to look at. Henry Ponciano. This is a really nice one. This I might even like this. It's almost like a different style than his style for the rest of it. He has that sort of hard-boiled, dark shadow style for the rest of it, and this is much more loose contour line without heavy shadow. Another one by Henry Ponciano. This is really strong. So, but same artist who did this one also did this one. So Ponciano, I think, just has some unevenness to his style, like more time on the cool, sexy pinup piece, quicker work on the comic work itself. But I am happy with this for $1.50. I will try to get issue 3 through 5 and see how this ends. But it's not the one that I would like be desperate to go hunt down. But good, decent start. Not much action, but really decent characterization of a female character in a historical period piece. Anyway, I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. I love you guys, and I'll catch you later.